We'll call the regular governing board meeting of the Lammersville Unified School District Board to order at 7 p.m. Please note this meeting is being recorded. At this time, please take a moment to silence or turn off your cell phones. For those of you here that would like to address the board about a specific agenda item and/or during public comment, please fill out a blue comment card so we know when to call upon you. I believe that there are students from Bethany Elementary School here to give a presentation. Ms. Ritchie, if one of your students could lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay.
Good evening, President Clements, trustees, Dr. Nicholas. It is my pleasure to introduce to you our Bethany leadership students. We have President Donovan Rudish, we have Vice President Natalie Navarro, and we have our social media director, Vivian Zhang. They have a presentation for you.
Bethany leadership students are back to teaching lessons in classes once a month, focusing on our new heart and mind characteristics. These characteristics are the awards Bethany students can earn at a Student of the Month assembly.
The lessons are planned by ASB students in the Community Committee. ASB students learn the lesson and prepare all materials needed. Then, once a month, they go to their assigned classrooms and teach the 20-minute lesson.
Lessons all start with a word web that builds a foundation of knowledge for each characteristic. These are left with the teachers for them to use and reference throughout the month. Then, ASB students lead the class through an interactive lesson that focuses on each month's characteristic. Here are some pictures of the activities that students participated in for the month of exploration, where they focused on asking questions. All activities are based off of what is appropriate for each grade level. For example, this time we had a different lesson for kindergarten, 1st to 3rd grade, 4th and 5th grade, and lastly, 6th and 7th grade.
These are pictures of the lessons in action. A variety of grade levels are pictured here from kinder to 7th grade. Our 8th graders work with their buddies for these lessons.
Finally, here are some of our word webs for exploration. These are from a variety of grade levels. Does anyone have any questions? Cool. Thank you for allowing us to present our incredible ASB lessons.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ritchie, and all of you students from Bethany Elementary. Great job. Thank you very much for coming and presenting. You're more than welcome to stay for the entire meeting. However, if you have better things to do, you can go ahead and leave, and I'm going to go ahead and hold off just a minute to allow you to leave without feeling like you're interrupting the board meeting. So stay or go, it's your choice. Item 2, roll call, please.
Lisa Boulay.
Here.
Colin Clements.
Here.
Benita Daniel.
Absent.
Stephanie Olson.
Here.
David Pombo.
Here.
Satya Seelam.
Here.
Thank you. Item 3, approval and/or corrections to the agenda.
There are none.
Move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Based on a motion by trustee Olson and a second by trustee Boulay, student trustee preferential vote.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries with 4 ayes, no nays, and 1 absent. Item 4, committee reports. A, District Advisory Committee, trustee Boulay.
You have nothing to report.
Thank you. Item B, District English Language Advisory Committee, That's me. The next DLAC meeting is scheduled for October 27th in the Cordis Multipurpose Room. Item C, Education Committee, Trustee Pombo.
Nothing to report.
Thank you. Item D, Facilities Committee, Trustee Olson.
The next Facilities Committee meeting is tomorrow, September 22nd at 6:30 PM here in this boardroom.
Thank you. I actually have a comment on the Facilities Committee. I'm not sure if the rest of the board is seeing the same thing that I am, but it seems to me that requests for facilities use by individuals and organizations in the community that are not related to our students and their organizations have increased significantly in recent months. And I think that's great. I know that the district wants to support as many of these requests as possible. And I want the district to be able to support as many of them as possible as well. In order to accomplish this, Dr. Nicholas has even authorized the hiring of a few new custodians. I can't remember the exact number, but three new custodians. So the district can provide the staffing and support as many of these requests as possible. That being said, I believe there are limits to what the district is able to do. For example, it would be fiscally irresponsible to hire enough custodians to do all the normal work that they need to do and support the district, and also hire enough more to support a 1,500-person event in the high school stadium, just in case an organization decides they want to do that. We can't have them on on payroll and on standby, just in case. I think it's obvious that we can't pay to have people standing around all the time just waiting to staff a big event. And I think it's equally obvious that we can't have staff just sitting around waiting for a request. I liken it to the summer swim program that CSD tried to do. Everybody in the community knows that was a valuable thing. It would benefit the community as a whole. Whether or not it was a good idea or should be done was not in question. However, the CSD couldn't find the staffing to be able to support it, and therefore they couldn't. So not being able to do an event is it's not weighed based on whether or not the event is valuable or good or should be done. Sometimes it's simply a matter of resources. So I would like to see if there's a consensus among the board to support directing the Facilities Committee to look into what we can do and what the reasonable limits should be.
I support that.
As do I.
I know it's too late to get it on the agenda for the meeting tomorrow, right? Because that has to be agendized.
I
But
believe it's on there.
I believe that there's an open-ended opportunity to discuss facility matters, and in that, it would be open enough to do that here.
yay. Okay, so we have a consensus. Thank you very much. Item E, Policy Committee. Trustee Boulay?
Thank you. You will see in your board packet this evening the first reading for a number of policies that we have recently reviewed. That's
Thank you
all.
very much. I'm glad, and I wanted to tell district staff thank you. We put the Policy Committee on standby for a while, so I know getting back into it was probably a lot of work. But I wanted to thank district staff for participating in that and helping us out. Item F, Safety Committee, Trustee Pombo.
Yes, the Safety Committee met last Wednesday, and Director Busatil reported on the site safety walks, and she will be giving a report to the board later in this meeting. Also, the sites went over their site safety events, fire drills and the like. Representatives from Mountain House High School also gave a presentation on possible changes to the dress code, and a long discussion ensued, and it was decided that a subcommittee of the Safety Committee would be formed to continue discussions on any possible changes to the dress code. Trustee Olson, do you have anything to add?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Item G, Wellness Committee, Trustee Olson.
The next Wellness Committee meeting will be on Wednesday, October 26th at the Professional Development Center at 3:45 PM.
Thank you. Item 5, Governing Board Reports. Student Trustee Selam.
On September 17th, the speech and debate team went to their first competition at Enox High School, and they performed very well with multiple students placing top 3 in every event that they were entered in. And this is our homecoming week at MHHS. All the students are having a great time dressing up for all the spirit days. And today we had not one, but 2 rallies to accommodate for our large student body. And it was very successful with our cheer team, color guard, and dance team performing. And we're super excited to wrap up homecoming week with the parade on Friday and dance on Saturday. That concludes.
Thank you very much. Trustee Olson.
On Monday, September 12th, I attended the girls' varsity tennis match versus Bayer High School, and that was great to see such a successful team out there winning matches like they've done for 5 consecutive years now, I believe. On Wednesday, September 14th, I attended the safety committee meeting, and later that evening I reported to the CSD on our board our district happenings. I shared with them our enrollment numbers. I gave them a shout out as suggested by Assistant Superintendent Harrison at our safety committee meeting for all of the wonderful safety measures they've helped put in, near our schools. And I shared with them information about all the clubs and extracurriculars the high school offers. And there was one director that was very fascinated that there's a Dungeons and Dragons club. And then I concluded with the best news of all that LUSD students did not suffer learning loss, as was evidenced by the report Dr. Nicholas gave last meeting related to the CAS. Dr. Nicholas and Associate Superintendent Sharp gave related to the CAS scores. On Monday, the 19th, I attended the Mountain House Athletic Booster Club meeting. And on Tuesday, September 20th, I attended the boys varsity, girls JV, and boys JV water polo games at Bayer High School. To conclude my report, I often get questions about my role as a board member that give me an opportunity to clarify some inaccurate perceptions, such as the fact that we as board members do not have an office here or anywhere in the district. Board members do not get paid a salary, and board members do not run the day-to-day operations of schools or the district. What a board member does do is set the direction for the district, communicate that vision, and then the superintendent and faculty and staff under his direction put that vision into action using their knowledge, expertise, and education. Part of our duties as board members require us to be present at meetings to conduct the business of the district. To do that, we must have a quorum, meaning 3 of 5 board members must be present at all meetings, or else the district business, often pressing and urgent, cannot be conducted. I hesitated to bring this up, but I feel it must be acknowledged. I am very grateful to Trustees Pombo and Clements for being present at the September 7th, 2022 board meeting in the midst of dealing with some very personal tragedies that would excuse anyone from a work, school, or any activity or commitment. Their dedication to their role as a board member and to the students, community members, faculty, and staff in this district is such that they made sure we had a quorum at the meeting so district business and agenda items could move forward without delay. They take their responsibilities very seriously and care immensely for the students of this district, the faculty and staff, and its success. I was grateful I could support Trustee Pombo on Friday, September 16th by attending his son David's funeral, along with Dr. Nicholas and Trustees Clements and Boulay. I am sorry I could not do the same for Trustee Clements, as his brother Gary's funeral was out of state, but I want them both to know I am very sorry for their losses and am so honored to serve on a board with the caliber of commitment and dedication they bring. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Trustee Olson. Trustee Boulay.
Thank you. On September 10th, I attended my first ever high school cross-country invitational. It was a huge event. Mountain House High School students did amazing. Boys and girls freshmen, the Frosh-Soft division, JV division, and varsity division, and those kids are fast. On September 12th, I attended the girls' tennis match at home. Again, they continue to do well and win matches, as Trustee Olson said. On September 13th, I attended the volleyball games, both the 5th, 6th, and the 7th, 8th volleyball games at Bethany Elementary School, and they played Altamont, and both teams showed some very strong skills. This past Monday, I attended the volleyball games at Lammersville Elementary against Cordis, and again, lots of good skills out there on the court. And then finally, I do want to echo Trustee Olson's comment about the commitment and dedication of President Clements and Trustee Pombo. I'm impressed with their strength of my fellow board members, and I truly feel privileged to be able to work with them. And thank you for allowing me to follow Trustee Olson, because she took the hard job and put those eloquent words together. So thank you. And that's all I have.
Thank you very much, Trustee Boulay. Trustee Pombo.
I want to start out by saying that typically board members don't talk about personal issues in our board reports, but my family is going through a difficult time, and I would like to publicly thank my fellow board members, the superintendent, district staff, site staff, teachers, students, parents, and community members for their support, understanding, and kindness. Thank you. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Trustee Pombo. Wow, I thank you very much to Trustee Olson and Trustee Boulay. It is an equal honor to serve on this board with you. And of course, Trustee Pombo, I've said it a million times, but your dedication, regardless of what's going on, is just awe-inspiring. So thank you all. Item 6, receiving of public comments. The entire board appreciates hearing from members of the community and public at large. To facilitate this, the board shall give members of the public an opportunity to address the board either before or during the board's consideration of each agenda item, Code Section 54954.3. At a time so designated on the agenda, members of the public may also bring before the board matters that are not listed on the agenda of a regular meeting. The board may refer such a matter to the superintendent or designee or take it under advisement, but shall not take action at that time. The board may place the matter on the agenda of a subsequent meeting for discussion or action. Individual speakers shall be allowed 3 minutes to address the board on each agenda item or non-agenda item. The board shall limit the total time for public input on each item to 20 minutes. We have not received any blue comments, so I would ask if there's any member of the public that is here that would like to speak to any agenda item or during public comment. Seeing none, I would ask for a consensus of the board to waive the reading of the rest of the instructions. Thank you. Item 7, consent items for consideration. Item A, governing board meeting minutes from regular board meeting on September 7th, 2022. Item B, contracts under $50,000. Item C, ratification of the 2022-2023 new hires. Item D, ratification of resignations. Item E, ratification of budget revisions and warrant list for August of 2022. Item F, approval of early high school graduation or reduction of graduation requirements petitions for 2 students. Item G, updated 2022-2023 fundraisers. And item H, ratification of school-sponsored overnight trips. Would any board member like to pull any item out for separate deliberation or discussion?
I don't want to remove anything or necessarily discuss anything. I would just like to express my excitement and appreciation that we are buying some instruments for strings. It's been a long time coming, and I know a lot of families in this district have wanted a strings program for a long time, and I'm glad to see we're moving in that direction.
Trustee Pombo, you stole my thunder because I was going to make that exact comment. When I saw that, I was jumping for joy, and really just want to say thank you with much gratitude to those who are working, putting forth the efforts to get that middle school strings program started.
And I third that for sure. Move to approve the consent items.
Second.
Thank you. Based on a motion by trustee Boulay and a second by trustee Olson, student trustee preferential vote?
Aye.
All in favor, or excuse me, additional discussion or comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries with 4 ayes, no nays, and 1 absent. Trustee Olson, as board clerk, would you do the honors, please?
Yes, I'd like to welcome the following new hires to the Lambersville Unified School District family. Malak Asaf, noon duty supervisor. Jessica Batchelor, noon duty supervisor. Kristen Caldwell, CTE business teacher. Tiffany Compton, self-contained classroom teacher. Nicole Emery, self-contained classroom teacher. Fatma Hammam, CTE computer science teacher. Sandra Munoz, special education paraprofessional. Manikeshwari Patil, special education instructional aide. Neera Rainey, noon duty supervisor. Claudia Ruelas, custodian 2, and Claudia Stacy, self-contained classroom teacher. Welcome to the Lammersville School District family.
Thank you, trustee Olson. And by the way, I was so moved by what you and trustee Boulay said that I forgot to do my board report, but I'm just going to move on. Item 8, district administrative reports. A, superintendent's report. Dr. Nicholas?
Yes, I have a few items this evening. The first is some somber news I heard this afternoon. So I'm making an announcement related to that. I was informed this afternoon by the dean of our Mountain House campus representing Delta College that trustee Area 6 trustee Dr. Teresa Brown passed away a week and a half ago. I don't have any details beyond that. My purpose is to, first to honor her. She was a very nice person. I didn't know her well, but I spent a lot of time with her at functions. She was a passionate advocate for education, and she loved her Delta College role. She represented Tracy and Mountain House. Delta College is seeking representatives who are interested in applying for her vacant seat. The application will be for Area 6. There's a way of applying. You could contact the office of the president or superintendent at Delta College. Their contact information is on their website. Phone number 209-954-5018. Applications are due no later than 1 p.m. on Tuesday, October 4 of this year. And interviews of the candidates by the board members will be on October 11th, 2022 at 5:30 p.m. So that's somber news and unfortunate, but that position represents the Delta campus and the voice of Mountain House and Tracy in the inner workings of what that board makes decisions on, representing Stockton, Lodi, Lathrop, and that surrounding area. So it is an important role. Second of all, I want to call out in a positive way our business office, starting with Assistant Superintendent Grijalva. We received our letter of certification of our budget, which means in the simple way, we can afford to pay our bills this year and our 2 subsequent years. So thank you to Gloria Alvina and their teams for their excellent work in maintaining our good books.
I think they deserve a round of applause.
Absolutely. I was going to brag a little bit about the consent agenda items, but I think that it's great that our board members are paying close attention. We have been working very hard in the background trying to figure out a way to expand our VAPA opportunities, visual and performing arts. We made some decisions last spring to create a district K-12 music position to fill some holes and build some robust music opportunities for our youngsters. This tranche, I'll call it, of instruments is the first of 2. At the next board meeting, there'll be another one coming in. And we're starting with advanced because we have kids who know how to play the instruments and a music teacher who knows how to teach how to use those instruments. We did a interest survey. There were some parameters, which I'll call a cut point for experience, so we could start small and do it right. But we will be also moving forward with an interest for beginning strings as well hopefully this spring, so that we have a robust strings program to match all of our other interests. And with the idea that you teach kids to love music early, learn an instrument, and they aspire to perform in what has to be the most beautiful high school theater in California. So we're very proud of that work, and we want to thank Assistant Superintendent Sharp and our music teachers across the board. They have really stepped up, and we're excited about what is to come.
I think that deserves a round of applause, too.
Okay, so we're going to put up some pictures. I spent about an hour and a half today out at the construction site at Evelyn Costa School. I took these pictures. I'm not 6'10" like Mr. Faubert or 6'6" like Mr. Harrison, so I had to stand on some stairs next to a portable to take this shot. But what you can see on the left is they're pouring a concrete foundation, and on the right is they're going up with the framing. So our 9th school, or 8th K-8 school, is moving along robustly. We are right on our timelines, and though there are a few hiccups and challenges, as there are with any sites, we seem to have those under control at present. Okay, I'll tell a little story that leads to a moral to the story, but I promise not to say the tortoise wins the race. Mountain House High, as I understand it, and there's no historian, there's no oral history, there's no a book that someone wrote about the long, 35-year path of Mountain House. But what I could gather from people talking who've been around, originally in the master plan, there were supposed to be 2 high schools. And then somewhere along the way, that changed to 1 big comprehensive high school. But when that change happens from 2 to 1, the size of the plant at the high school did not increase commensurate with the number of kids we were going to put there. So what happened is 2 45-acre school sites became 1 45-acre school sites, and instead of having 1,800 kids or so, or 1,500 kids, it turned into 2,400 kids on a 45-acre site. Research on the California Department of Education website will show you that that's woefully inadequate for the needs of a school of that size. So we have developed a good partnership with the developer who represents CalPERS. Resmark is the name of the company. He's a developer, and he plays hardball, but he also believes in community. And through a series of lengthy discussions and negotiations, we were able to work out an arrangement where 19 additional acres will become part of the high school campus in the very soon future. Where we are at in the negotiation is its full approval at Resmark happened yesterday. The agreement was last Friday that we came to the negotiation agreement. And we will move forward with signatures probably in the next week. But I was given assurances and approval to make this statement tonight, is that if you take a look at the map, at the top of it in the middle is the high school campus. You can see the baseball diamond and the softball diamond. Unfortunately, it's not contiguous. We couldn't control that. 45 acres was given to the district, and we did our job. We built what is the most beautiful high school. Again, I think in California, if someone's got something better, they can show us a picture. But the 19 acres is set up to do 2 things. One, we plan to add fields, about 6 acres of fields, when we put in the landscaping over at Costa, save money. But we are going to be housing very soon freshman teams across the board. We are going to have people wanting to do lacrosse, field hockey. The demands for space for kids with that tiny little campus and that splotch of green there is not enough. If the board can recall, we built our JV softball diamond at our JV baseball diamond at Cordes, and we worked with the city to put in the JV softball diamond. We've been scrambling for space. So big picture, we have procured this for the history, for the future for our district. 19 acres is a significant amount of land. If you go to Grantline and you look, there's a big giant rectangle with some weeds on it. and a little bit of a portable and some other staging area stuff, but that's right there. That will be ours, and you will see fields going in there for about 6 acres of it very, very soon. If Mountain House develops a big and beyond the master plan, and we were to need to put more buildings somewhere, we could add buildings to the campus currently at where Mountain House High School is, or we could add buildings down there as well. So we could house the number of students that this city is going to produce. We're proud of the outcome. And in essence, to kind of picture it, we have 45 acres now, and we will have 64 acres. So we're very excited about that outcome in the last couple of weeks.
I would just like to say thank you to Dr. Nicholas and his staff for all the hard work that went into making this reality.
Agreed. And I think that deserves a round of applause.
To be, I think it behooves us to make it clear that this was not a natural expansion. This was not a planned expansion. This wasn't even a twinkle in anyone's eye. The reality is the student generation for the high school was higher than what the resources that we had could support. And Dr. Nicholas and the team looked around, came up with an idea, proposed the idea, worked with the developer, all of that to solve a problem that was really not, was made decades ago, essentially, right? Well before the purview of the current board or the current administration. And that's, I've said it a million times, where it's like the duck on the pond, where on the surface everything's smooth, and on the bottom it's just churning like mad, because people don't need to know. People don't need to know the problems; they need to know the solutions, and this is just one of those solutions. And I just wanted to thank Dr. Nicholas and district staff and the developer for cooperating to make this happen. So thank you.
And then finally, we have a short-term solution and a long-term solution. It was this board's vision that portables are intended to be temporary. We provide a 7-period day and a robust academic and career technical education a program at the high school. To do so, to provide all of the things that we like to brag about our kids accomplishing, we have filled every coffer we can, and we're looking for more coffers to fill some more. In doing so, the space at the high school has become an issue. We have 2,150 students in a flash. Next year, 22 to 2,400 kids, right? That was the goal. We'll be over 2,200 kids. So the progress for the direction from the board was, if you got to do portables, do it temporary. Next year, we're going to bridge the gap between where we're at now, size-wise and space-wise for students. We're going to bring in some portables on the east side of campus in the parking lot, and that will give us the time and space to build an extension onto the classroom wing, which will create 11 additional classrooms. That's a lot of classrooms for a lot of high school kids, because remember, they go period by period by period. So what is the current plan, based on feedback from staff, Mr. Faubert and others? We have room for 12 classrooms, but the question was, do you need any science labs? Do you need any computer labs? Do you need classrooms? So in essence, we're going to end up with 11 classrooms additional, 1 chemistry lab, 1 bio lab, and a storeroom, because those things have a lot of stuff. We have 2 classrooms that are expandable. So technically there are 4 classrooms with a wall that can go up, where you can have an expanded space, or it can go down and have 2 full classrooms, and 5 regular size classrooms, plus, because ADA is everywhere, an additional stairwell. So we have a rendering that's being built and put together, but we wanted to give an update to the board that their direction, their vision, and their expectation that portables are temporary is coming to fruition, as we're going to soon bring a rendering and some approvals and to get this approved, and we can go forward with constructing an addition to the high school campus of 11 classrooms.
And I would once again like to thank the superintendent. He took what was an idea and ran with it and started contacting people and figuring things out and playing chess. And this is where we're at with the expansion, and I truly appreciate that.
Ditto.
So in conclusion, if you take the 19 acres and this additional space will be able to absorb kids beyond 2,400. And that should get us to a place where if there was ever a need to build additional facilities, there's a choice. There's going to be 19 acres or the land here, but we won't be shorting the kids of space for them to do their activities in either case. And that is my report.
Thank you very much. Oh, absolutely. Thank you very much, Dr. Nicholas. Item B, Student Services, Social Emotional Learning, and School Safety. Staff report?
Yeah, Director Busatil is going to come up and give a presentation here, and it's kind of the partner with the presentation from Assistant Superintendent Sharp from last. We gave some test scores updates in which we were able to announce that our test scores went up in spite of the pandemic, and we talked about all the programs we're being able to provide. Now we want to talk about taking care of the social and emotional health of our students, and we'll turn it over.
All right, thank you. So good evening, President Clements, trustees, Dr. Nicholas, thank you for having me. So I'm here just to give you a little bit of an update in some ways and just provide general information. So social emotional learning is a really important part of human development, not just for our students, but all adults. It's a process through which people acquire and apply the knowledge, skills, and attributes to develop healthy identities, manage emotions, achieve personal and collective goals, show empathy for others, and how do we maintain those healthy relationships and partnerships, and then make responsible and caring decisions. We want our social emotional learning because we know that it increases education equity. We know that through our partnerships, our school, family, community partnerships, that we can provide a supportive environment for our students because there's an element of trust, there's an element of collaboration, and so that helps everyone to know that we're going towards a common goal. We want to make sure that we're incorporating meaningful curriculum in the instruction, along with ongoing evaluation of how that curriculum is being implemented and its usefulness and effectiveness in our classrooms. Is it having the outcomes that we want for our students? Because at the end of the day, we want to empower all of our students as they move forward from our elementary schools into our middle schools, to our high schools, and then on to their college, their career, and their next steps. We know that the benefits of social and emotional learning include increased performance. We know that it helps students and adults get along with one another. It helps our overall performance, both academic and in relationships. It helps how we perceive ourselves, not just in the classroom as a student or a teacher, but how do we fit in with the world as a whole? How do I interact with others? It helps us to decrease not just student anxiety, but staff anxiety as well. It helps to kind of curb any behavior problems that might stem from student anxiety, a student feeling out of sorts or out of place. And it also helps to address concerns relating to substance abuse. The next part is making sure that we have our students, we're always preparing our students to be future leaders. We already know from all of our competitions and our sports that our students are already current leaders, but we also want them to be the future leaders in their next steps. And so providing all of these skills makes sure that we're providing our students with a big, solid foundation to do that. And the why, it all circles back to social emotional learning is important for everyone. definitely important for our students, but we do understand that we have a small population of our students that requires and needs and is deserving of a more intensive support, because we know that when we provide that support to students, we help to remove those barriers to success. And then we have student achievement again. Student achievement is not just on the report card, it's just not in a test score, but it's how does the student feel about themselves? Are they able to achieve their goals, their ambitions? That's the bigger, broader part of what student achievement is for us. We do have a multifaceted system of support here through a variety of programs and approaches. So we have our restorative circles. So that's just how do we have conversations? How do we resolve conflicts? We have our social emotional groups of, again, sometimes students need to know that they are not the only individual that is feeling that way, that kind of feels out of place or a fish out of water. Sometimes they need to know that other individuals also have the same ebbs and flows, where one moment they're happy and the next moment they're sad, and they don't quite understand the why. We want to make sure that we have the anti-bullying, so we make sure that students feel safe and supported, and also how a potential bully or someone that might be perceived as a bully understands how their choices and their actions are impacting others. We, of course, want to make sure that we're providing drug education that is prevention, intervention, and cessation. So we know that sometimes students try things because they're curious, but we also know that sometimes students try substances because they're looking for a means to self-medicate, to make themselves feel a little bit different, as a form of escape. So we want to make sure that we're addressing the root cause and giving them other tools as opposed to substances. We also do have the crisis triage. We know that with the COVID pandemic, and it's difficult to be a student, it's difficult to be a young person, and so sometimes students just need a big, intensive, all-encompassing approach to where they have a lot of professionals, whether they're educators, support staff at our school sites, a counselor or a student services counselor, that they're getting those supports in the moment that they need it. We also have our parent project, because oftentimes if we have a student that's in crisis, we also have a family that's in crisis. So how do we provide those supports to the student through providing support to our parents? We have our character counts curriculum, so that's done in many of our schools about the, are we being a good citizen? Are we being caring? Are we being fair? But at the end of the day, all of this goes down to relationships, peer-to-peer, student-to-student, adult-to-adult, and all of the other variations that we have of relationships on our school campuses. So we are very fortunate because of our board, and our board has always been very, very clear. You guys have always been very clear with staff of making sure that we're providing students and staff with what they need. And so because of that, we've been able to continue expanding the supports that we have available in regards to not just curriculum, but the individuals to provide the curriculum, to provide the supports. And so we have Karen Perez, she's our Vice Principal of Alternative Education and Student Services. So part-time she's at Mountain House High School, and part-time she's working here at the district office as part of the Student Services team. And so that's allowing her to not just take care of Mountain House High School, but also zoom out and look at things from a whole district perspective, and how are we implementing our objectives and our goals with integrity. We also have Sharda Karthik, so she's our student services counselor. Again, she provides lots of different supports across our campuses. We have Jabari Carr, he's our restorative practices specialist that we've talked about before as well. And his role continues to be not just at the high school, but also at our elementary schools as well. And then we have Beth Sorensen, she's our district nurse. So similar to like many of these other positions that I mentioned, they have like a site home, if you will, but they're always on call and looking at things from not just a site perspective, but then again, of how does this look for part of our site plan? Are we moving in the directions that we want? Are we using the best curriculums? Are we using the curriculums in the most effective way? Are we doing everything that we can? Is there something else that we should be looking at or considering? In addition to that, we have our high school counselors, we have our team of school psychologists, and then we also have our LVNs, our vocational nurses. And again, that team, as a reminder, we got the thumbs up to add to that team as well. So now each one of our school sites, with the exception of Lambersville, which is our smaller campus, has a nurse that's there all the time, because oftentimes we know that if a student's coming in with a tummy ache, consistently, that might be a symptom of something else that's going on. And they don't just have a tummy ache because they didn't like breakfast. Maybe they're feeling sad, and that's how it's coming up as a symptom. So our student services counselor, she does a variety of services. She does individual counseling, she does small group counseling, she does class instruction, she provides professional development. She's also compiled community resources that are available and on the student services website. She provides support for social and emotional support. How do we handle peer pressure, impulse control, decision making, and then again, the drug intervention that I mentioned previously. We want to make sure that we are always increasing our student support, so we're decreasing discipline, because the less discipline we have, the less time that our students are not in the classroom with their teachers. And then we also want our increased support because we want to decrease the number of times that we're having to do that crisis triage, because we've provided the early interventions when we started to first see symptoms that there's something going on with one of our students. So this is 21-22 data for our student services counselor. And again, this is like individual cases. Does not include all of the drop-ins, or this student just needs a quick check-in. And so you can see for our elementary schools and our high schools, the support that our student services counselor is providing, it is having the outcomes that we're looking for in regards to decrease discipline incidents and repeat offenses, if you will, whether it was a bullying situation, whether it was substance, whatever the case might be. So we have students that are referred for the drug interventions, decision-making, social emotional, and then attendance. And so sometimes there might be a student that we're talking about maybe in a SART or a SARB meeting relating to attendance. And so when we get to the root of the problem and understanding the why, we see that the student needs support. And so that would be one of the things that the student would be referred to out of a SART meeting, a SARB meeting, and a student study team meeting. Also, sometimes when we get to the root of the why of a student that has been brought up to the office for having outbursts in the classroom or saying negative comments, we get to the root of the why, and we're able to do that with our student services counselor. We also have Jabari Carr, our restorative practices specialist, and his emphasis is on providing and building positive relationships. So his goal is to go and to visit the classrooms. Yes, there's sometimes like some one-on-one support to students or small groups of students, but it's also to make sure that we have another adult that's not a classroom teacher, that is not the yard supervisor that's always telling them that they can't sit that way on the swing, but to really kind of engage with the students in a different way. Also restoring relationships through conflict resolution and having discussions, modeling, helping students to problem solve. Like, I'm having a difficult time with my teacher because of fill in the blank, and what do those conversations look like? What is a way that a student can advocate for themselves in a way that's received as a professional or responsible? And then with any of our systems, it's a two-way system of referrals. Yes, students might be referred to our restorative practices specialist, but they might also be referred to our student services counselor, but it goes the other way as well. So for example, if Coach Carr is meeting with a student and he was like, you know what, this is kind of beyond, this is more of a mental health need, not just a student support need, then something like that could get referred to our student services counselor. Or maybe we find that the root cause is that the student is not feeling safe at school for whatever the reason might be, then that can be a referral to a site administrator to do an investigation and follow up on that as well. So it's really meant to be a fluid, not like a, you know, you can only have this type of support or service, but more so as like a moving ebb and flow for whatever the student and or the family needs at that time. So you can see from Coach Carr's data, and again, this doesn't show anywhere near the work that he's doing because these are individual cases that were referred to him. But again, there's a small group, there's going out on the basketball courts for the students that are being a little bit too rambunctious, playing basketball during recess, and how do we engage and how do we understand how our actions are impacting others, whether it's our peers or the staff that are out there supervising, and how do we find other ways to resolve conflicts that are not maybe physically aggressive or verbally aggressive. So in our school district, we have a lot of different curriculums. So right now we've had Second Step, and we've had that for a number of years. It's a non-technology based curriculum, and that is a TK through 8, and it's utilized by right now Altamont Elementary Schools using that TK through 8th grade. Our school psychologists use it, as does our student services counselor. We also have things like SAME Circuit being utilized. I'm Sparked is currently a pilot that's happening at Hanson Elementary School, and I believe Bethany Elementary School is going to be piloting that as well. And it's just to make sure that we have the right tools for our students. So for example, Hanson had used Sown to Grow previously as a pilot to see if it was the right fit. And, as the site looks at it, it's like, is this the best thing for my students? I've looked at this, but I want to compare something else and have like an informed choice. So that is being looked at right now, and we'll have ongoing conversations about what we would like to do. Do we want to go ahead and switch to something that is all the way across the district to where it's the same thing for grade level spans, but also knowing that each one of our schools, it's so you guys have had this experience because you visit our schools all the time, but each one has its own personality. So yes, for language arts, we all have the same curriculum. In math, we all have the same curriculum. But there's other things to where it might be a little bit more varied because it really depends on the whole vibe and the nature of that school and their personality as a school environment. We also have Sown to Grow being used at our high school, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a moment. We have Zones of Regulation that is used by our student services counselor, and that one reminds me of that Inside Out movie. Not that I've seen it, but I've seen the commercials to where the kids are talking about if they're feeling red and what the emotions with that are, which is not just anger. Sometimes it's like overly excited, because that can lead to behaviors as well. Or they are feeling blue, or are they feeling sad or depressed? And so it gives students a way to kind of communicate how they're feeling on a given day. And then for staff to be able to see a pattern of how that student's been feeling. And the other one that I really like is the Komochis. And it's like these little plush little guys, and there's like a bag of emotions. And so it has these little, like literally little plush guys. And so there's like a little butterfly one with like the little butterfly pieces that go into it to help kids to pick, like, this is how I'm feeling right now based off of this little butterfly guy. This is what my face looks like. And then there's, of course, like the bag full of emotions to where the kids are able to just figure out where they're identifying with it that day. It's kind of like, you had like when you're in the hospital, the I feel this way chart, this is my pain chart. It's similar to that, but it's something very tactile for our students. And so with all of that, we make sure that we provide the training to our staff, both by the curriculum publishers. There's also a lot of, the positive of having everything go to Zoom is that our staff are able to access a lot of things virtually as well, or to have a lot of recording trainings that we're able to have them access. So Sown to Grow, the training, initially it was a direct training for staff, and then it did go to the department chairs. So the department chairs are responsible for the follow-up training. The counselors did receive a direct refresh training because, of course, we did have some additional team members come this year for our counseling team. So to make sure that we have a common baseline, we're speaking all a common language. As you likely know, our counselors are one of our first tiers of supports for our students, so the counselors would be able to refer out to the appropriate person. The students take care of doing weekly reflection with their advisory teachers, and so I had the opportunity to see some of the student responses that were coming in, but then also to look at the responses that staff were saying to a student. So for example, if there's a report of a student that's depressed or expressing words or language or emotions related to suicide ideation, that's immediately referred to multiple adults for a response to that student. But sometimes students are just feeling overwhelmed and stressed. And our high school does a fantastic job of reading those, each one of the advisory teachers reading what's referred to them from their students, responding to those, and then having those conversations as a staff about how is the student body as a whole feeling at this moment, and then providing supports based off of that. So last year we did the Healthy Kids Survey, which we know that's one of our LCAP measurement tools, but it's also just good information for us to have. And one of the things I just want to remind everyone, this was done last fall. So when the students were going through and answering and responding to these surveys, that was the first time that they were kind of back to school normal, but kind of a new normal because they were still wearing masks and things like that. So we kind of see some of that reflected in different parts of our data set. So overall, the students feel that they were doing fantastic. Which is great because you want the students to perceive that they're doing well because it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. They felt that they had caring adults in school, most of the time or all of the time, and that even when schoolwork was hard, they are persisting. So that's what we want, is for our students to be resilient and persistent. Looking ahead, students are sharing that they feel that they're taught to be responsible for their actions, that their choices are their own, and that we're teaching them to care about one another and to treat one another with respect. And that they also, in turn, feel respect reciprocated to them from the adults on our campuses as well. Looking at the 7th, 9th, and 11th grade data, again, you kind of see the students and how they're feeling about if they were reporting that they had mostly A's and B's, or mostly B's. You can see some other instances of like why there might be reasons for absences. Again, you see things a little bit different when we have our upper grade students talking about if they have the perception of if adults care about them and how they're feeling in school. Again, when we had that chronic sadness or feeling sad, we know that a lot of that had to do with some students feeling isolated and kind of coming out and getting back to normal at the time that the survey was taken. And then we also have some information, a snapshot about students and their thoughts about suicide ideation. So that gives us an idea of where do we need to continue to provide that support, which, I mean, all of the things have increased even since the survey was taken. So we're definitely doing things to meet the needs of our students. Alrighty, so does anyone have questions about social and emotional learning before I move on?
Well, I guess I do. Can you go back one slide?
Uh-huh.
Looking at the 3rd, 4th, and the responses to the 3rd, 4th, and 5th,
Mm-hmm.
I would like to know more about what that means, and I'm not asking for it like right now, but though I was surprised. So let's just say I was surprised by those, and I'm not educated as to what a good number is, or right, like I saw those numbers and said, I would like to know more.
Right, and I think that was definitely reflected in the number of referrals, for example, that Sharda Karthik received, our student services counselor, who a lot of her work focuses on the mental health and well-being, and so her caseload last year went up a lot, and so it was with students feeling overwhelmed and needing to learn how to cope with stress and the changing world. So that's definitely, I can provide some additional information for that as well.
Okay, and maybe some, I mean, these are question and answers, right? They're survey responses, right?
And they are anonymous, correct?
Yeah, and, never mind. You can't ask the ones that said yes. You can't ask them, did a referral to,
Right.
did that help, right? Yeah. But I guess you can, the people that go there, they can be asked an anonymous survey, did that help? Because I'm looking at that going, man, I want to make sure that we're helping the kids that need help. Right?
And so some of our other curriculum tools like Sown to Grow, or the one that's being piloted like I'm Sparked, it has that in the moment dashboard to where staff are able to respond, and those responses are not anonymous. So this survey is kind of like a zoomed out, and so it is anonymous, and we're not able to really dig in on that, similar to like CASP data, right? Even more so because we don't get the student report, if you will, but we're able to get that more with our other curriculums that we're using, because each one of those has a measurement of how the student is feeling and how they're doing and how they perceive themselves, and that's what staff's able to respond to immediately.
Could we get, when you provide that information, a copy of the actual quiz? I'm just curious what the other choices were, like when
Yes.
the answer is very, very much true or pretty much true, that there's someone at the school who really cares about me. What were the other things that were selected? You know, I'd like to see that quiz.
Yes, I can send you actually everything from what the students saw. We have the parent surveys, we have the staff surveys, what those look like, the actual questions, as well as our comprehensive results.
I too was concerned with the same responses that President Clements was pointed out. I feel like it would be helpful to see some comparative data. In other words, state average is such and such percent for this question, because, well, the second to the last one frankly scares the hell out of me. That
Well, even the last question, life satisfaction at that age, that, you know, I would, you know, I'd like to see it in the 90s and 100s, because, you know,
Right.
it's such a young age to already have that many people not have a satisfied or very satisfied answer with their life.
And I can definitely understand that perspective as well. And then when I think back to like some of the SARB hearings, for example, recently, and the students are in there, and one of the statements that one of our students made was like, well, it seems like a little problem to you as an adult, or to my teachers, or whatever the case might be, but to me it's everything. And kind of like how difficult it is to be a teen in general, to go through school. They're trying to navigate peer relationships, social relationships. Then you have all the social media in there, and all of the different things telling them how they need to look, how they need to present themselves, what's okay, what's not okay. So they're constantly being inundated with all of these all of this information. I'm telling them who they need to be and like what their value is. And so oftentimes what our students are having to learn is, how do I turn off some of that information? It's extraneous, I don't need it. And how to be okay with, and I've lost count of the number of times that I've counseled students and their parents to where you need to deactivate all social media, because it's such a distractor, and that's not where their worth comes from. That's not where their value comes from. And it's difficult, because then they feel like they're cutting off that part of them. They're going to miss out on something. So.
And I think it's also difficult for a lot of people, students especially, but the general public, to realize that social media is not reality.
Correct.
It's not real.
Right.
It's garbage in a lot of cases, but.
Yes, it's difficult right now to navigate being a student. I don't envy our students right now. All we can do is make sure that we're providing them as many supports and asking the questions like each of you are asking of, like, okay, I'm not comfortable with this. How can we do better? What else do we need to do? Which is what our board has always asked for us to do as staff, whether it's district staff such as myself or our site staff. And so we'll continue to make sure that we find the whys for all of that. And we always know that we have the support of each of you to go out and find the resources to address the whys.
Thank you. Go ahead.
One more question. So, am I understanding this survey comes out once a year? Is this year's coming out within the next couple months? Is that correct?
So we don't do it every year. Yes,
okay.
the Healthy Kids Survey is from the state, and they do it like every other year.
Okay. Darn, I was hoping we'd get some comparative data and see some some trends getting better. So I guess we'll have to wait 2 years.
Well, that leads to a question then. If that's from the state, is there something that we could, is there something that's available at the district level that could be done yearly to evaluate that, or is that just adding way too much work for?
We can always compare and do some surveys. I know we had drafted up a potential survey last year based off of mimicking some of this. So we can kind of have our own gauge of, like, we want to have it more than just once a year, but then we also have the data coming in from our other curriculums as well. So it's like, how do we make sure that we have that in the moment, formative data, just like we do for our instructional curriculum? How do we do that for our social and emotional as well? Any other questions?
One last comment, I think, is you know, to put it in context, and I think there's a a thirst for additional information and context on behalf of the board. But like if a child, a student, was one of the 17% of the 11th graders that seriously considered attempting suicide in the past 12 months, if that same person availed themselves of one of the programs, one of the counselors, et cetera, and gained some context, realized that social media, social media is not the world, and having bad comments and dislikes or thumbs down or whatever is not the end of the world, and grew from that, then that would be a positive outcome, but they would still honestly answer yes.
Right.
Right. And so to put it in context, these are data points. They do not mean that, this many people are going to do that, in the future.
Right.
And I didn't mean to imply that was the case, because I know intuitively that it's not. I am simply saying, those numbers are data points, and we'd like additional context and understanding.
Absolutely.
Sorry for derailing.
No problem.
Let's continue.
All right, so moving on to school safety, another thing that's also been very important to our district as a whole is school safety. So we talk about the social emotional safety, but now here's like the physical safety of our buildings. And so our board has always asked us to make sure that our campuses are safe and secure. And then more recently, Trustee Pombo had asked us to make sure that we're just doing another assessment. We have recent events in the news, and we just want to make sure that we're just never resting on our laurels and never assuming that we're doing everything that we can. And so that did lead to a series of site safety walks. So the first site safety walk was with Associate Superintendent Harrison and I. And so we were going and looking at all of our campuses in general, but in particular, we wanted to look at our buildings that were designed with a different mindset. So if we look at Lammersville Elementary School, Bethany Elementary School, Wickland Elementary School, and Costa Elementary School, those do not have a front entrance that is in front of the main gates. So that was something that we're looking at, is where are potential ways that we can change, modify the entry points to those campuses, to where if someone is coming onto campus, they don't have immediate access when they walk through the main gate, or more easy access from one of the sides. We want to make sure of how do we make sure that, yes, parents need to be able to come on campus, individuals need to come on campus, but how do we limit the range of availability to the remainder of our campus? So after Thor and I met, then he and our Director of Maintenance and Operations, Mr. LeGrand, met to said, here's what our brainstorms were about potential places where we could add new entrances, like construction. This is what we can do to solve this security concern that we have. And so Mr. LeGrand's, taking our ideas and seeing, are they feasible? Much like when I was re-envisioning the Lammersville Infinity Lab, one of the first people I talked to was Jimmy, and I said, is this even possible? And he told me yes. So then I went and talked to the next person. And so after we did those walks, Thor and Jimmy did those walks, then we went to the overall site safety, and that was Deputy Garcia and I. And so we wanted the law enforcement lens, like what things are we not considering? And while we're never going to be okay with just being, great, we always want to do better. And so one of the things that Deputy Garcia shared is that he went to a training down south, a very comprehensive training with a bunch of school resource deputies. And he said he, at times, he was proud / a little bit, what do I add to this conversation? Because in general, our campuses are so much more secure than the images and things that were being shared by all of these other districts from across California and other school sites. But he did provide, feedback of how else can we make sure that we label the building. So our buildings are all labeled on the sides. Do we go ahead and add labeling on the ceilings if there's something that needs to be like a drone and needs to be flown in? If we have a helicopter for some reason, I remember Altamont was first open, we had a helicopter that landed on the soccer field. So you never know when a helicopter is going to come. Do we have any threat to where you need to think about traffic to where we're susceptible to a car. And he was looking at, like, so for example, Altamont, you don't have those concerns because you have those big concrete decorative planter pillar things. You know, our high school, we have those big stanchions that we can take out if we have a delivery. So those are the other things. He's like, we're already having that in so many different places, but if we're looking to add another layer, here are some things that we could do. So with that, these are just the places that we identified as potential options. So right here, we would put a door here, so it would cause some reconfiguration for Bethany. But that would put the gate, so after the bell rings, this gate right here would be locked, and there would only be that one entrance onto the campus. Similarly for Wickland cooperated with us very well. We'd be able to take out some shrubs, bushes right here, and then add a door onto the Wickland campus, again, being able to close off the remainder of the campus. Cuesta, everyone knows that Cuesta has a beautiful facade. You know, all our campuses are beautiful. Cuesta has a lot of pillars. So we had one, whoopsie, wrong button. We had one potential right here. What we have to see if it's feasible from a construction standpoint. If not, around to the front of the campus, there's another potential option as well. Like it would be here if I didn't cut that picture off right here. We would have an option there. But again, it's like we have pillars there. Are they decorative? Like, are they just for aesthetic? Are they serving a structural purpose? So that would be the question that we would have to answer. And then we have Lammersville. And so if we're looking at Lambersville, right here is the main entrances over this way. This corner right here represents the nurses station. So it's a way, how could we kind of be creative with like still gates that would close off here and then make this an L, if you will, a 90-degree, and then have the entrance actually come out over here on through that cinder block wall. So those are the potential options that we're looking into at this time. Questions?
Questions? I do. Any of these changes that we propose, would they have to go through the Division of State Architects?
We believe that these matters will not. The lone exception is Lammersville. And there might be, Lammersville is complicated because of its age and the multiple decades of construction out there and potentially some new construction projects in ADA. So I won't put my name on Lammersville being clean of DSA. But we do have a modernization project that we put forward, Mr. LeGrand put forward, which 3 different layers of different projects we would like to do, fencing being one of them. And that has all been through DSA. And it's approved, and we're on the state funding list for modernization. So it fits somewhere in there.
Okay. I just have a question. You talked about adding entrances and doors and things. Did we also look at the possibility of moving fencing to a different position so that the doors that we have could be used?
Potentially, because our iron gates are actually part of the architecture, the easiest way for us would be to add an alternate doorway. In the most case, it wasn't that much of a change. We might have to like flip how some things are in the front office spaces, but it's less of a hindrance at this point in time from what we believe to do an alternate entrance as opposed to adding additional fencing with the exception of Lambersville. And I think the other thing that's been really important is we want to make sure that we're maintaining the aesthetic of our schools. We want to make sure that our schools look like schools. So that's been really important as well. That was part of the conversation of, you know, how do we make sure that our students and our staff are safe and secure, but also make them still feel like they're going to one of our beautiful school sites. So it's like marrying those two.
So what's the next step from here?
It's in Jimmy's department right now. And then it goes on to Thor. Getting quotes.
So it's going from Mr. LeGrand to Associate Superintendent Harrison tomorrow, right? Just kidding.
Any other questions with that?
I don't have any other questions. I would just like to say thank you very much for all the staff that were involved in making this happen. I think it's an important thing that we make sure our kids are safe in every fashion and manner. Thank you.
Definitely.
I just wanted to say thank you too, and for both parts of the report, because I know the second part was entitled safety, but I feel like the whole report was about our student safety, because if they're not safe mentally, then it's just as bad as not being safe physically, as far as I'm concerned, for their education. So I just really appreciate all the hats that you wear and time that you've taken to look into all facets of our student safety.
Definitely. I also would like to just remind everyone that we do have our district safety committee. So trustees Pombo and Olson sit on that committee. But we also have a large committee that's classified and certificated staff. We have site and district administrators on there. It is a multi-agency, so we have our own school resource deputy, and then more recently, Deputy Grant, who is the motor in Mountain House, has also joined us. Mountain House Fire has always been fantastic with coming out and participating. And then we also have community members. Most often, it might be a parent of a student or someone that has like something else that they would like us to look at and consider. But then also, as we mentioned in the most recent safety meeting, we also have a very supportive CSD to where we look at things that are beyond the scope of the school, outside of our school property that we don't really have rights to. But when we share concerns, the CSD has always been very, very responsive. And so they're putting our student safety in the forefront, just like we are, from painting curbs to adding crosswalks to putting up solar flashing lights on the crosswalks to cameras and all of that. So that's been a fantastic partnership for us as well. And we've been very appreciative of that. And then I just wanted to make sure that I'm also communicating the purpose of the safety committee, if anyone ever wants to join us, is to make sure that we're identifying and addressing site safety concerns. We want to make sure that we're researching and making well-informed recommendations for changes to maybe site procedures or district-wide procedures. So some of that would be our Mountain House Fire coming out to a fire drill, and a school site might think that their plan is fantastic, but then they have have you ever thought about this safety risk, or here's another way that you could do this. Similarly with the walks with our sheriff's department, and as I mentioned before, our support that we receive from the CSD. All righty, any other questions for me?
Thank you. Very thorough and informative, and I appreciate all the resources that we give to our students and families just to make this a great district. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Item C, District Enrollment Report. Staff report?
Yes, we passed the threshold. Our district is now 7,502 students. And growing.
7,500.
Did you say growing or groaning?
Both.
Item D, District Maintenance and Operations Report. Mr. LeGrand.
Good evening. Thanks for having me. The weather has cooperated with us the last couple of weeks. I wish I had a little rain, which is nice. So our HVAC calls have gone way down from the 2 weeks when we had 110 plus temperature. The cold weather is also threw another wrinkle into it. We had to turn the heaters on in the pool. When it was 110 plus, the pool turned into a little mini hot tub. Water was 90 degrees plus, so we had to shut it off.
Maybe a little larger than mini.
Depends on your perspective, right? So we had to shut the solar off because it cooled off, and now we're required. We had to turn the heaters on today. Monday was 72. I was out there today. It was 79. It has to be above 78 for them to practice. So we're back in where we're supposed to be. This week was homecoming week, so we're preparing for homecoming. We're out pressure washing the bleachers today. We did both sides, home and visitor. Tomorrow we're grooming the field for the game on Friday. Maintenance staff's getting the trailer ready for the parade on Friday afternoon. Unfortunately, I missed the Costa meeting today. We're doing pressure washing. I didn't make it over there. I want to thank Sean for covering for me, and of course Dr. Nicholas, but Sean covered for me. Last Monday, I walked Costa and Bethany with our electrical vendor. Again, second time we walked to see about adding electrical. They want to add a couple external freezers outside. So we want to double check a couple things to see if it's possible, see if there's enough power, enough capacity in the box to handle it, and there is at both sites. Costa is a little more tricky. We'll have to do some saw cutting and some external conduit, but it is doable, so that's a good thing. Last Thursday, I had my meeting with Mr. Logan Lawyer sitting over there on the corner at the high school. We have a bi-weekly meeting at the high school, talk about facilities issues. I participated in the EPIC interviews on Monday the 12th at the high school, interviewed about 8 junior and senior students, maybe potential mentors, or what do you call it, apprentice mentors?
Interns.
Thank you, that, for the MOT department. So interviewed 8 nice young men. They were nice kids. So, and then waiting for the next steps on that. So solar installation, nothing new with Costa, still waiting on parts. The high school, they are still pulling wire. They're making connections. They're doing inspections, so on and so forth. We are on schedule for the utility shutdown on October 29th. That's when we'll shut down the power for the school for 3 or 4 hours, tie in the solar to the main electrical panel, and then we'll fire it up after that. The expectations, everything's going to be done on November 18th, right before Thanksgiving break. So we should be done with the high school. Costa, we're still waiting. It's pushed back to 11/18 now for the parts, November 18th. So you already got an update on Costa. So I'll be at the facilities, upcoming items, I'll be at the facilities committee meeting tomorrow night. I have another meeting with Logan next Thursday. We're making plans for fall break, first week of October. On Monday, the staff's going to finish their Keenan training. We're going to have a lead custodian meeting that meeting. We're going to do a CPR training. I think Thursday we're doing that. Wednesday or Thursday we're doing CPR training. So that'll be part of that week, plus some school clean into schools. We're having them focus on the outside areas, a lot of the outdoor lunch areas. The kids been eating outside, need to be pressure washed and cleaned up. So that'll be their main focus that week. And then the following week, the week of the 10th, the company will be out to clean the solar panels. They come out and wash them for us. It's part of their deal. Staffing update, our second floater custodian started last week. We have a couple of resignations recently, so we have 4 openings. We have 1 more floater to hire. We have the warehouse/custodian position. We have a position at Wicked, and we have a position at the high school, both my positions. That's all I have. Happy to answer any questions.
This kind of tag teams off of my comment during the facility, after the facilities committee report in. So we hired 1 custodian, and you had some resignations. So how many positions do you have open?
4.
4. So there would have been 1 before you approved the 3 additional custodians, right? That's what we're saying, right?
We have 2 of the 3 additional that
Right,
were approved.
with other
on board.
resignations.
Before, yes. Yeah.
If we hadn't approved those other 3, we'd be looking for 1 more, right?
Right.
And I only do that to highlight that even after we approve it, and you mentioned in a previous meeting, I think one person that hired, I mean, they interview, it's a custodian position. You can predict what you're going to be asked to do. And they made it like an 8-hour shift.
No, 6. I mean,
6 hours.
They didn't quite make it the full 8.
They didn't go full 8. They resigned. And I'm actually the head of facilities for my company with 6 different offices, which granted, the scale of mine is nothing compared to the scale of yours, but I have similar issues where people are like, oh, you want me to do something? And so my point is taking care of these facilities and being able to support these requests. We want to do it. We would love nothing more than to have a full complement of staff at all times. Bless you. A full complement of staff at all times. But the reality is we don't, in spite of the fact that we are always looking, which is one of the reasons that drove my request for the consensus to look into that. So thank you.
I'm sure we're going to talk about more tomorrow night, but we do try to accommodate as much as we can facilities use. So just so you know, everyone knows, public knows. So I'm sure it'll come up more tomorrow night.
Could you repeat the openings that you had? You said you had 1 opening that's not filled at Mountain House High School, and where are the other vacancies?
What are the other openings I have?
Yeah.
One's at Wickland, 1 is a floater, and 1 is a warehouse person, part-time warehouse, and he also cleans this particular building. So it's /custodian. So that's what we have now.
Laura and I are going to be mopping soon.
Hey, I have hauled trash for 2 days because there was nobody else to do it.
I would like to request to be notified when you and Thor are mopping because I want to watch.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Mr. LeGrand. All right, item 9, action items. A, consider approval of 2022-2023 inter and intra-district transfer requests. By tradition, there is no staff report.
Move to approve 2022-2023 inter and intra-district transfer requests.
Second.
Based on a motion by trustee Pombo and a second by trustee Olson, student trustee preferential vote?
Aye.
Any additional discussion or comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries with 4 ayes, no nays, and 1 absent. Item B, consider approval of Governing Board Resolution 22-23-03, approving the annual appropriations limits for 2021-22 and 2022-23 GAN limits. Staff report?
Yes, this is a have to. It's a requirement that's tied to legislation about the limits on taxation and allocations, and this is our part in feeding the big giant report.
Move to approve Governing Board Resolution 22-23-03, approving of the annual appropriations limits for 2021-22 and 2022-23 GAN limits.
Second.
Point of clarification, does this item require a roll call? Yes. Thank you. Student trustee preferential vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Any additional discussion or comment? I'll waive the voice vote and proceed directly to roll call vote, please.
Lisa Boulay,
Aye.
Colin Clements,
Aye.
Benita Daniel,
Absent.
Stephanie Olson,
Aye.
David Pombo.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries with 4 ayes, no nays, and 1 absent. Item C, consider approval of unaudited actuals 2021-2022 year-end financial statements. Staff report?
Yes, this is the official closeout of the books for 21-22. We want to thank Assistant Superintendent Grijalva and her team. Lots of hard work. This closes that chapter as we open up the chapter for 22-23.
Move to approve the unaudited actuals for 2021-22 year-end financial statements.
Second.
Based on a motion by trustee Boulay and a second by trustee Olson, student trustee preferential vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Additional discussion or comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries with 4 ayes, no nays, and 1 absent. Item D, consider approval to adjourn from regular session and open public hearing on the preliminary environmental assessment for Evelyn Costa Elementary School. Staff report?
Yes, this is a have to when you're building a school. The requirements of the Department of Toxic Substances requires this. Basically, they check the dirt for short-term, long-term problems of the dirt to make sure it's safe for kids now and into the future.
Move to adjourn from regular session and open public hearing on the preliminary environmental assessment for Evelyn Costa Elementary School.
Second.
Based on a motion by trustee Olson and a second by trustee Pombo, student trustee preferential vote?
Aye.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries with 4 ayes, no nays, and 1 absent. We are now in a public hearing on the preliminary environmental assessment for Evelyn Costa Elementary School. Is there anyone present that would like to speak to the board on this issue?
I would just like to state that I read this absolutely riveting report, 74 pages worth, and I noticed a small error. I don't think it's of any consequence, but there's a map that appears on page 26 and again on page 74 that errantly identifies the Delta College site as Mountain House High School.
Move to annex Delta College.
That's like 121 acres.
Problem solved. Point of clarification, I didn't I didn't notice that. So, does that impact this proceeding?
No.
Okay. Based on that, I will now entertain a motion for item E, consider approval to close public hearing and return to regular session.
Move to approve to close public hearing and return to regular session.
Second.
Based on a motion by trustee Pombo and a second by trustee Boulay, student trustee preferential vote?
Aye.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries with 4 ayes, no nays, and 1 absent. Item F, consider approval of contract with Jensen for backfill landscaping at Bethany, Hanson, and Wickland Elementary Schools not to exceed $180,000. Staff report?
Yes. So one of the challenges is when you start a project is value engineering and what you're willing to give into a project and what you're willing to do elsewhere. One of the decisions we made is that the impact on landscaping in and around some of these projects, the solar panels and the expansion of the parking lot at Wickland, we knew was going to create a need at the end of the project. So we made the decision to wait till the end and come back and fix it ourselves. These projects will take care of the landscaping needs at multiple school sites as a result of the expansion of the parking lot and other solar projects to make them return their beauty to its once status.
Move to approve the contract with Jensen for backfill landscaping at Bethany, Hanson, and Wickland Elementary Schools not to exceed $180,000.
Second.
Based on a motion by trustee Boulay and a second by trustee Olson, student trustee preferential vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Any additional discussion or comment?
Yes, Mr. President, I have a couple of questions. I'm curious as to whether there are some trees involved in the landscaping. If those trees were screened for having invasive root systems because the CSD or the developers on the CSD's behalf planted trees all over Mountain House that subsequently ruined sidewalks, retaining walls, curbs, streets, and the like. And I just want to make sure we're not planting any trees that will have detrimental effects on any of our.
So I've reviewed all the plants. All the plants are grasses and small shrubs that will mostly fit in the little planter boxes that would be breaking up where the cars park, with the exception of the Wickland parking lot, which is in a field basically. However, there's a water line, so any invasive root, larger tree would have to avoid that. There is one large poplar tree that's still there from the original plantings. That'll probably be pulled out and replaced by more of a lollipop tree, not a cylindrical tree. So I think Chinese pistache would be the largest trees, which is a middle-sized tree. The rest would be crepe myrtles and bushes, plants and shrubs.
Also, were these plants chosen for drought resistance / water savings? In other words, plants that don't require excessive water.
I don't know the answer to that. However, they are part of the approved list, as I understand it, for Mountain House. And their grasses are the predominant plantings for water resistance, but I don't think I don't know the answer specific to that. Yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries with 4 ayes, no nays, and 1 absent. Item 10, information and discussion items. A, 2022 summer school reports. Staff report?
Yes, we have 3 short reports of how our summer school program goes. Let me again say this. It's been a long-standing commitment of the board of this district to invest in summer school, not just credit recovery at the high school, which nearly every district provides. I think probably all districts provide, but the K-7 and the 8th grade opportunities for learning is an additional investment, and it pays dividends for us. So we have a Mountain House High School, it looks like Mr. Loya and Mr. You want to introduce folks? Associate Superintendent? Well, I'm going to introduce Associate Superintendent Harrison, who's played an integral part in this.
Good evening, Board President Clements, trustees, Dr. Nicholas. Thank you for having me tonight. I just wanted to start this off by thanking Ben Faubert, Debbie Ritchie, for being the administrator in charge of our summer school. It is, you lose your summer, which is a time that our administrators re-energize, revamp their souls to come back and do battle in August every year. And those two administrators worked with kids all summer long to enhance the learning of our children. Some quick data that is in the packet. In K-7, we had 236 kids enroll. At the 8 through 12 high school version, we had 317 for a total of 553 kids serviced in summer school. And that includes about 20 special education students in that number. The principals will talk more about their programs. This is a voluntary activity for these administrators, and they do a very good job with very little need for management during the summer, and I'd like to thank them for their hard work this summer. So we're going to start with Ben Faubert, that did the high school summer school, and then we're going to go to Debbie Ritchie, who managed the K-7, and then we're going to go to Dr. Saylor, who's going to give us some background on the ESY program and why we do ESY and some of the background on that.
Good evening, Board President, Superintendent, board members. I have Logan Loya here with me tonight. We've done summer school at the high school for 8 years now, and Logan has done double duty for about 5 of those 8 as a teacher and / teacher in charge kind of thing that he's helped me out with so that he can get some experience, and it paid off 5 years later now that he's a vice principal. So we just want to go through with you some of the things that we did this summer. So just a quick overview first. 13 teachers, 1 secretary, 1 administrator. We had students were at the site from 9 to 11, and then we had success sessions in the afternoon. So all students this year, we've kind of retooled it every year. We think we found the magic formula this year to get kids on campus every day, regardless of whether they were ahead or behind, that they had to be at school each day to work on their online curriculum. It was 6 weeks long, 4 days a week. And as a reminder, at the high school, for the most part, it's a credit recovery program that is intended to recover credits that students got a D or an F for, and to recover credit for UC college eligibility. So they had to have a D or an F, or during the pandemic, a no credit, an NC. Those people were eligible to enroll. Students had the opportunity to make up at least 10 credits. They could have made more if they worked quickly. And students were each assigned a homeroom teacher to track progress. And then in the afternoon, those teachers turned into subject-specific teachers that could provide tutoring and support for students if they needed help in the individual areas. So we had a virtual orientation meeting. Homeroom teachers had daily email updates for parents and students, follow-ups with regular phone calls and emails, weekly counselor support, and administrative follow-up with contact logs and daily participation logs, just so that we knew what was going on at all times. And these are some of the course offerings. These are the course offerings that we offer every summer. Again, the only thing that you'll see on there is to recover credits for UC, CSU college eligibility. We do not offer honors or AP courses during the summer to recover. They would have to retake those during the regular school year. So I'm going to have Logan talk about summer school improvements for this.
Yeah, so we had mentioned a number of improvements in our board report at the beginning of last school year. And I just kind of want to give you guys an update on the improvements that were suggested and then the plans that were put in place for summer school from this summer. So we really wanted a greater administration emphasis and assistance on the use of GoGuardian and Chromebooks. So we emphasized that in our presentation that we did to students, the orientation for the first day of school, and then the video recording for our parent orientation that was sent out. and then emphasize that during our teacher training. We had teachers set up their GoGuardian classrooms, their scenes, the things that they would need to use this software appropriately, and then train them to be able to set that up and use that for the duration of summer school. We wanted to increase the summer bridge program from 45 to 90 students and really improve our communication with the K-8s. The number was the same, it was about 44, but we did improve our communication. We used the EduClimber data from the K-8 schools and really had an accurate number of the students who needed the program based on their MAP scores at the K-8 level. And that's 8th grade going into 9th grade. So that program is really designed for students who are going into 9th grade to kind of bridge the gaps that they have in reading and math, which we'll talk about in a second. We wanted to add one supervisor to the school team. That didn't come to fruition. Ben and I talked about it. We don't really have a direct need for it. It's something that is, as it continues to grow, it's something that we'll assess at a later time. But during this summer, we kind of have a discipline policy that is consistent with restorative practice as much as possible, but kind of it's a voluntary program. So if you do something that doesn't meet the expectations of the school, then we discuss other alternatives for you to recover those credits. We wanted to improve the quality of the summer school program by creating a testing schedule and using the learning commons for classes, and then having 2 math teachers as teachers of record. These things were all accomplished, and then we did have a small group of peer tutors. I say small as small meaning it was 76 students. So that was about as small as I could get it. There was a lot of people that applied, but consistently of those 76, we had 50-ish kids who would come every day, and they would assist students in the classroom of the 9th through 12th level, but then they'd also assist the students who were going into 9th grade who were taking our math advancement class to be enrolled in the early college program. All right, so summer school letters. So just so you know how we enroll summer school, so the letters are sent out to all the students who are credit deficient. The counselors are responsible for this process. They usually start this process in March of the previous school year. So we ended up with 317 students who enrolled in 517 semesters of credit. 215 of those students earned at least 1 semester of credit, so they earned 5 credits in that particular class. That means that that's a percentage of 67% who enrolled recaptured credit. Summer students in total recaptured 334 semesters of credit, which ended up being a 64% recapture rate.
So our math acceleration program, we had 134 students this year sign up to take the math skipper course. This is the course that's available to students who didn't make the cut in the 6th grade to go into the accelerated program and may have needed to have the skipper course so that they can get into the early college program. 87 of the 134 students finished and completed both semesters of math. That's the entire year of Math 1. And unlike the other classes during summer school, this is the entire course. It's not a credit recovery version. It's the entire year's worth course in 6 weeks. So there were some challenges to it. The workload is, as every year it is, super intense. Most students were there for 2 to 4 hours each day. And the testing schedule was really packed for those students. And there was a bit of parent frustration, as there is every year with the program, just because it is extremely, we remind them over and over again, this is a very intense program, and your student has to be really excited about math to want to do this and to go forward. So we did have quite a few students complete. I think it's a larger completion rate this year than we have ever had, and obviously a much larger number of students who participated. And remember, we had 2 full-time teachers assigned to 134 students, so it was a large task for summer school. Why don't you go ahead and talk about Summer Bridge?
So Summer Bridge program, as I mentioned, we had 2 teachers who were specifically assigned to the Summer Bridge program. One teacher was teaching students or improving skills in math, and then the other teacher was improving skills in English language arts. 45 students were enrolled initially. There is still some communication gaps between ourselves, the K-8 sites, and then the parents that are enrolled in this program. So that's something that is going to need some upgrading. And we had talked about a better communication plan, which I'll go over in our upgrades. So we really only had 15 students who attended the duration of this program, the 6-week period. These students are split into 2 groups. They attend class from 8 to 12:30. They switch teachers at 10:15. So the students who are in ELA in the morning, then go to math, and they've vice versa. We used Guru, an educational technology. We use the Focus Mathematics Intervention Program, and then we use a English Language Arts workbook called Accessing Complex Texts. We use a variety of assessments. We use the math and reading from Guru, the placement exams and the post exams. We did 2 of the short writings from the English Language Arts curriculum, and then we use the Focus Math Intervention pre and post test to compile some data of, is this program successful? Did these 15 students show improvement? We will also continue to track these 15 students in this coming school year and see the growth in both their MAP scores and then in their English Language Arts and math in the classroom. So of that Guru post test, we had 19 students who showed improvement. It's hard because I know I said only 15, but there were some students who kind of were in and out and weren't regularly attending. So some students took the pre-test, some took the post-test. So this data is just going to be a little uneven, just so you know, but it's something that we are going to communicate a little bit better so that the attendance is better overall and throughout the program. The highest improvement shown by a student was 30% from a pre and post test. And then 16 students showed improvement in the Guru post-test for math. The highest improvement was 39%. That's just a general assessment of skills. It's a pre and post-test that's given using a variety of questions based on the 6th through 8th grade math curriculum and English curriculum. So the potential of future summer school improvements, like we talked about, we want to add an advisory element to the summer bridge program. Again, we're really rounding out the summer bridge. This is the 2nd year that we've done it. And again, the concept is that it's students who are identified as kind of having lower or below average MAP scores in math and English language arts. And then we want to work with them to, again, bridge that gap from 8th grade to 9th grade. We really want to add some of the more school features, and instead of being just an improvement in their scores in those programs, we want to really focus on integrating into the high school itself. So having a lot of the high school elements that may or may not be present at the K level, so that this group of students who are already having a tough time adjusting can adjust even more into what we do at the high school. We would like to see the program grow a little bit more, summer school and summer bridge, so that would require a campus supervisor who is kind of supporting students, supporting teachers, and kind of handling any issues that arise in the class using our restorative practices policy and implementing that restorative practices policy in the summer school program. We do really want to do some of the things we saw this year as far as teachers. We really want to focus on some targeted teacher training so that we can better equip teachers who don't usually teach online classes, because that's the curriculum that's used, to really have a better overall quality of teaching and learning in the Edgenuity classes during the summer, instead of kind of just focusing on the Go Guardian scenes and making sure kids have academic integrity, but really working with students in both small groups and individually, and teaching them some very specific techniques to improve the overall quality of the teaching and curriculum in the program. And then lastly, we want to redesign the approach, like I had mentioned a little bit, that includes some meaningful classroom time. So instead of all being on the computer, all being Edgenuity, teachers being more focused with targeting specific skills in those classes. So for example, if a student's taken Math 1, they've already got an F in Math 1 or a D, how are we going to help them to really not just take the class in Edgenuity, but improve their skills in that particular subject? And that would be by having some very specific teaching sessions that go with it that match the Edgenuity curriculum. Questions?
I just have a question about the summer skippers course. It's just mostly curiosity. The incoming freshmen who take that course, does that course count as a grade on their high school transcript?
It does. So that grade actually becomes the first grade on their high school transcript.
And do you know how did they perform in that class? Were a lot of students able to get A's, because that's a really fast time to do math?
Right. So what we typically do is partway through the summer skipper program, we'll find the kids who are underperforming or maybe not keeping up with the pace of the class, and we'll conference with the parent and the student and say, hey, look, this is not, first of all, we remind them, Math 1 is actually the regular Math 1 class that every freshman takes. This is not required that you finish the summer skipper to keep up with the rest of everyone else. That it's really important that they get a good grade because it is the first grade on their transcript. And if they're underperforming, we advise them to drop the class during summer because it's, again, not necessary. You can start with Math 1 in your freshman year and go all the way through AP Calculus without having to take the summer skipper course. And sometimes there's some misunderstanding that in order to get into these AP math courses, you actually have to do the skipper course, and that is not so. And in fact, it's no longer even necessary for early college anymore. So it is an opportunity for our students to accelerate during the summer. We really encourage it for only students who are really passionate about math and want to spend 4 hours a day, 4 days a week at the high school doing math problems.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I just have a question about I believe you called it the Bridge program. That is, as I understood from the presentation, that's for students who are possibly having difficulty and you're trying to help them into the high school. Do you feel like maybe the reason why so many kids dropped out is they didn't understand what the what's the word I'm looking for? That they didn't understand what was necessary to.
Yeah, so I think that the overall communication of the program, because it's just in its second year, needs a massive improvement from the administrators running it, and my teacher in charge, myself included, just because there is like that connection that we have to have with the K-8 schools to get the students, and we need to get a better list of students a little bit earlier than we did this year. We also need to make sure that we have an open parent session. Really this summer, we just sent out an invitation, and then there was some miscommunication about, like, we sent an invitation and then a bunch of people were like, well, what is this? So then I had to send out, thinking that was something that had been communicated already, I had to send out then an additional, like, this is what the program does. So I think that we've learned a lot in that process about, like, the layers of communication that we send and then the timeliness of that communication. And so we can really address that earlier and more consistently for the next summer.
I would add to that as well that I have had individual conversations with parents who remember, these are the kids who are struggling already. They don't consider themselves to be good students. They're tired. Their parents tell us that they're tired and they just need a break. And so it's really our responsibility to start earlier, like January, February, to start communicating that while it is summer school, it's a summer bridge program, that we can do a better job at communicating that it actually is really fun. The kids who showed up, we had kids after the first day, a parent called and said, my kid came home and they said they felt like they were smart finally. And I was like, that if it's only 14 kids and I got that out of one, that means everything to me, because they felt like they couldn't do math, and they went home and all of a sudden they felt like they could do math. And these teachers, they were phenomenal this summer. They really took care of the kids. They took them on a field trip to the Ghirardelli ice cream, and we tried it, and we want to really rebrand it as it is an intervention program, but we want to, like, incorporate maybe some field trips and some building of culture and community to make it more of not just an academic bridge from middle to high school, but to get them like an insider's look of how fun high school can be. Start connecting them with what they can do at the high school when they get there.
What are the criteria that, to be eligible for that program? Like what?
So the criteria that we've used are MAP scores on English, language arts, and math, and then also grades, and then also referrals from teachers and administrators at the sites. So we do get a significant list. We send the invitation out. We found that we've done in the past, maybe not this year, but in the past it's better when you just say, congratulations, you're part of the Summer Bridge program. It's going to be great fun. We're going to do these things. And then you get the calls of like, yeah, right, my kid's not coming. So it's always the struggle, right? It's somebody's summertime. We try to be as flexible as possible. You notice the numbers kind of fluctuated because some kids were out of town and then they would like join back in, and we try to incorporate them in anyway, just to get them some exposure to the high school.
I've said this before, and and I see it again with this program, is that one of the strengths, I think, of our high school and the programs that we have is we're always evaluating them to see where we can improve. And I mean, you had a whole slide of ways to make it better. And so I appreciate that, because I do think that year after year, we are getting better and better. So thank you.
Thanks.
I wanted to thank you for the efforts running the program, all the teachers and staff that worked to support it, of course. But I also wanted to thank you for your candor. It would be easy to fall into the temptation to downplay things that could have been done better. And, you know, if you read Facebook, you know, when the
Bang your head
district
against the wall.
when the district makes a mistake, it's a federal crime, right? And you know, I can't tell, you know, it's like, and the function of one of the functions of the board is to say, no, okay, we made a mistake there. We're going to do better, right? But we're not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? And I can think of a couple, I can think of a couple of examples. The programs turned out to be great. Going to one-to-one, that's an easy one. Going to one-to-one computer ratio, right? And going away from paper textbooks, focusing more on electronic. I can tell you, if the board hadn't have stood strong on that, we would not have been in a position to do hybrid learning from home, right? Within 72 hours during the pandemic, right? So, thank you for taking the bull by the horns, saying, hey, this is a great program, right? Here's what we did wrong, and here's the implications, but here's what we're going to do to make it better. Because it would be easy to sit there and downplay that and whatever, but to make the program better, you got to sit there and really be what I call intellectually honest, and say, this is what we did right, this is what we did wrong, and this is what we're going to do differently moving forward. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I just wanted to add, because as you were talking, I was just thinking how both of the summer school programs, the Skippers and the Bridge, and credit recovery, I just love how we're so we're fulfilling our LCAP goal, which is closure of the opportunity gap. Whether it's opportunity to achieve higher by getting into a higher math class for the kids that really love math, or just bridging that, like, the struggle to help somebody have a success, because that's the one thing that is so important to me, as a board member, is that we don't just focus on the high achieving students, but the students that are struggling, we find a way to help them find their success. And so I appreciate, like Trustee Clements said, the candor in evaluating how we can do that, how we can best do that, and how we can make improvements so that we can close that opportunity gap for our students. So thank you.
Thank you.
Item B, first reading of, sorry. I am so sorry.
Okay, it's all right. Good evening again, President Clements, trustees, Dr. Nicholas. It's my turn.
I'm going to hear about that on Facebook.
Summer school. No worries. So I was able to lead the K through 7th summer school this year again. Last year we had 2 different sites and 2 different principals for summer school. This year we did 1. We started on June 7th and we ended July 1st. Our staff consisted of myself, we had an office supervisor, we had 2 kindergarten teachers, 2 first grade teachers, a 2nd grade, 1 2nd grade, 2 3rd grade, 2 4th grade, 2 5th grade, and then 1 6th and 1 7th. We based that on enrollment this year, where we had more classes last year. This year we based it on how many students were enrolled. So in 2nd grade we didn't have as many, so we had 1 teacher and so on. Dr. Saylor will talk about ESY, but the teachers are listed there. We also had food services, which the ladies did amazing. Every day they brought lunches and breakfast to the students that they could take home. So that was a great thing to have on campus every single day. So we started with 517 invites that were sent out to families of students identified by teachers and principals as being 1 year or more below grade level expectations. So our target was those students who were very behind, not just a little behind, not just, needing a little bit of extra support, but that 1 year or more behind. 297 families indicated interest in summer school through the Google form we sent out. As of June 6th, 236 students were enrolled. On June 7th, 200 students were in attendance. And then on the final day of summer school, 172 students were in attendance. So you could see we started with a big group. We got smaller and smaller. In last year's summer school, we invited more students. We invited the students who were low, just a little low, and those who wanted the extra summer support. This year it was just for those students, and we didn't open it up beyond that. Students were in class Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. This is our enrollment by classroom or teacher. You can see we had 31 kindergarten students. Now these are students who completed that grade just before they started summer school. We had quite a few fifth graders, which we didn't have in the year past. So we had 2 classes of 6th graders, and you can see 236 total. We also, of note, we had 26% of the students enrolled in summer school had an IEP. The curriculum we used the Focus Math Intervention. We used the Phonics Skill Bags, which was our K2 and some of 3rd. We used Be a Reading Star, which is a partner with our benchmark curriculum to support students over the summer. We used the Comprehension Skill Bags, and then this year we added the Reader's Theater, just to give students another way to build on their reading skills, but in a fun way. We also used Discovery Ed for science as well for teachers. So the data. Last year when we did the data, we looked at the pre and post assessment and looked at the growth. This year I wanted to take a little different approach and look at how students did on the MAP assessments, the MAP math and the MAP reading in spring, and then how they did this fall. In looking at the data for each grade level, you can see that students in kindergarten, 64% of the kindergarten students who are now first graders met or exceeded their goals, scores that they had in the spring. So oftentimes we see students having the summer slide, they're not maintaining what they learned the year before, but students in summer school in each grade level were able to meet or exceed their scores that they received in the spring. So you can see there's a little bit of data. Kindergarten doesn't take reading, and first grade doesn't take it till later, so the pre and post assessment was used for those grade levels. But you can see, for example, in 3rd grade, 60% of our students who attended summer school met or exceeded their MAP score that they received in the spring. So hopefully, for the most part, it was that they were making improvements over summer and maintaining that, but that's the data that we provided this year. Our budget, we had teacher supplies so they could provide for their classrooms, and we had our student attendance incentives again. When students attended, they had a punch card. They got a punch for every day that they were at school, and then they were able to trade those in for prizes. And then at the end of summer school, we had our water balloon throwing and Kona ice as well. Parent feedback, parents were very positive about it. They appreciated the time and the effort put in to support their children. Students were happy, even though coming to summer school isn't always fun because they're giving up their summer. Students were happy to attend as well. Here are some of the happy faces that attended. In the lower left corner is our attendance incentive store where they came in and they were able to purchase things with their attendance cards. They entered raffles, and then our water balloons and our Kona ice. Any questions?
I want to go to summer school.
It was fun. It was fun.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Good evening, Board President, Trustees, Dr. Nicholas. So I'm here to share a little bit about our extended school year program over this last school year. So just as a reminder, why we do extended school year. This is the California Code of Federal Regulations that provides the legal guidance of why we need to provide additional special education and related services for students with disabilities during summer outside of the regular year. So just to highlight this, the reason why we do it is to support students who are experiencing significant regression over the summer, meaning they're losing what they've learned during the regular school year, and it's taking a significant amount of time for them to recover that lost knowledge. And so that is the basis of the program. And so what we're doing is focusing on the students' individual IEP goals, the areas that we're seeing those deficits, and the difficulties recovering that information over summer. So it's different than why we run summer school at the other grade levels, but that is the purpose of it. And that is driven by the decisions made by students' IEP teams. So our ESY structure, we ran a K-5 program and then a middle and high school program, and that was based on our student enrollment numbers. And so we had a K-2 class and then a 3-5 class, and that ran the same time period as the regular primary summer school. So follow the same dates, same school hours. And then our middle high school ESY program followed the high school schedule. So in addition to the 8th to 9th graders, we had the 6th and 7th again to create a class that made sense to operate. And so that was just one class, and that followed the high school schedule. So 4 days a week through their schedule. And then you can see our ESY staff. These are all our special ed teachers that are currently in our district teaching. So Lorena Malia, John Contreras, Crystal Thomas, Kelly DeLong, they job shared our K2 class. They split it up. They had some vacations plans during the summer and worked out well. And then we had 2 of our speech pathologists, Ravina Rivera and Cassandra Valdez, split the summer work as well. So, and then we had our paraprofessionals, Kalindi Thacker, Kayla Hueni, and Arlene Suligwin that provided support to our students. So overall, we had 20 students that were participating in extended school year. And so when we start planning for extended school year, we take the total amount of students that are potentially eligible, we contact them, reach out, who's going to be attending, and then we adjust those schedules. And so these are the students who actually showed up for the course of summer school. And so you can see the numbers there between the grade levels. And one thing I do want to point out is we had preschool students attend this summer school. We had a handful of students, 3, that were attending a regular preschool program during the school year, and we were able to continue those supports during the summer for them. So, and any questions? I know last year I got some questions about data and do we have the analysis that we see in some of the other summer school programs. And I just want to remind the board that the extended school year is based on students' goals. And so really what we're doing is trying to prevent that learning loss over the summer so students are able to come back into the next school year and start off with what we would expect students to typically regress during the summer. So,
I have a question. The 3 preschool students, are those students now in kindergarten or pre-K in the district?
All 3 of them are in kinder this year.
Not that it makes any difference. I was just curious the age of the students.
And I just had a question about the students that you selected. What percentage didn't elect to continue with the extended school year?
Sure. Of the students that are eligible, roughly about 50% don't attend.
Any other questions? Thank you very much, Dr. Saylor.
Thank you.
Now item B. First reading of updated board policies and administrative regulations. Staff report.
No, this is following our normal process. Bottom line is this is the first read. Any questions, you can send emails, you can ask, and then we'll bring a second reading back and for board approval.
Any questions, comments, concerns?
I
wanna-
enjoy reading them. Not gonna lie, sorry.
I read them. No.
But I do appreciate the effort staff goes into to make this the summary at the beginning of each policy, so you kind of just.
I enjoy reading the summary.
I have to, I've noticed on some of them, with all of the crossouts and all of the additions, some of them, it looks like you should just start from a blank piece of paper and start over. I feel like some of them, there's more time taken in crossing everything out than just starting from scratch. But thank you so much for doing all that work.
I would say ditto. And I'm so appreciative of district staff for doing that, because when I first got on the board, I think they started this process before I got on the board. But, you know, the district and the board had not updated them in so long that it was a very arduous task. It is something that you have to keep up on, or it just gets out of hand quickly. And so, as you know, but then again, those policies don't help educate the kids. I mean, they help create the policies that help educate the kids, but at the end of the day, it's, you know, I can see how that would be a difficult task, so thank you very much. Item C, annual San Joaquin County School Board's dinner.
Yes, on Thursday, November 3rd this year at the Great Wolf Lodge, a annual school board's dinner will be held, put on by the San Joaquin County Office of Ed. No host social hour starts at 5, dinner at 6. The specials on November 3rd will be pan-seared chicken breast with chive creme fraiche whipped potatoes and seasonal vegetables, or herb roasted New York steak, watching Mr. Pombo on that one, with chive creme fraiche whipped potatoes and seasonal vegetables, or third, pasta primavera, fettuccine pasta cooked with fresh fall vegetables tossed in a lemon herb oil. So anybody who would like to attend, we'd also like to have your dinner order this evening.
Hearing you read those makes me think you would have made an excellent waiter.
I was a busboy one summer.
I will be attending, and I'll have the steak.
I will be attending, and I will allow Noel to figure out what I want.
I'll be attending and I'll have the chicken, please.
I will be attending, and I just want to say that I accurately predicted what each of you would order, and I wrote it down on my paper, but I will also have the chicken. I don't know if you predicted that about me, but.
I do have one other question. I notice it's at the Great Wolf Lodge. Are we expected to bring swim trunks and a towel?
Personal choice, Mr. Pombo.
Noted.
Well, I predicted that you would predict everyone. So. Item 11, calendar. On Thursday, September 22nd is the Facilities Committee meeting at 6:30 here in the District Office Boardroom. Item B, Tuesday, September 27th, 2022 is the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee meeting at 4 p.m. here in the District Office Boardroom. Item C, Wednesday, October 19th, 2022 is the next regular governing board meeting, 7 p.m. here in the District Office Boardroom. And item D, Wednesday, October 26th, 2022 is the Wellness Committee meeting, 3:45 p.m. in the Professional Development Center. In a few minutes, we will be adjourning to closed session where we will be discussing the following. A, Public Employee Discipline Dismissal Release Complaint, Government Code Section 54957. B, Student Discipline and Other Confidential Matters, Education Code Sections 48900 and 49060, and 20 U.S.C. Section 1232G for one student. Excuse me. Item C, Conference with Labor Negotiators, Government Code Section 54957.6. Item D, Conference with Real Property Negotiators, Government Code Section 54956.8. And item E, Conference with Legal Counsel, Anticipated Legal Litigation, Government Code Section 54956.9. I will now entertain a motion to adjourn to closed session.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Based on a motion by trustee Pombo and seconded by trustee Boulay, student trustee preferential vote?
Aye.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries with 4 ayes, no nays, and 1 absent. We are now adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
David's perfected it.
Returning from closed session at 10:38 PM. During closed session, the board acted on closed session item B, confidential student discipline matter pursuant to Education Code sections 48900 and 49060 and 20 USC section 1232G on 1, student expulsion number 21-22-17. The board took action by a motion by trustee Boulay and seconded by trustee Pombo to approve the stipulated alternative placement agreement for student number 21-22-17 for violation of board policies 5131 and 5131.5 and Education Code 48900F through December 22nd, 2022 by the following vote: 4 ayes, no noes, 1 absent, and no extensions. I will now entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn?
Second.
Based on a motion by trustee Pombo and seconded by trustee Boulay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. We are now adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.